Wow, that film is just so beautiful. Okay, I'm going to start with you, Dede. This is such an astoundingly wonderful film, as was Moonlight, and you've done these two films with Barry. I just wanted to ask you, what is it about him? What is it about him that he is able to churn out these beautiful representations of not just blackness, but love in all its forms, combined with history, combined with injustice? What is it about this voice?
Thank you for starting with me. Barry's a humanist above all other things. And also, I think Barry is fearless. I think Barry taps something in everyone with whom he works. He's not afraid to look back. He insists that if you look back and you open all the closets and all the doors, all the things that have happened, and he's been very forthright about this in his own conversation, that you learn and you grow. And that's been a set of physics that's been personally incredibly important to me, and I think very important to us as producers. I guess I rely on it in a really profound way. It's super hard and it's full of disquiet and dis-ease, and yet I think it's the sort of bedrock of storytelling, and it's you also do that, and it's why I've been so privileged to work with you as well. I just really believe in that set of physics. I believe in, you have to turn around and say, wait, what's in those closets and what's behind those doors? As a person, as a father, a mother, an aunt, an uncle, a brother, a sister, a citizen, just feels like a really crucial directionality. So I'm charged when we're around Barry because it raises me.
Yeah, I can see that. Well, and the film raises us. KiKi, I wanted to ask you, is this your first film?
Yes, that's correct.
Wow, that's incredible. Okay, jeez. So how was that? How was that for you in terms of, you must have known the nature of the opportunity being presented, but also the people who you were going to be working with. How did you navigate your nerves? Were you nervous? I mean, what were all the things going through your mind once you knew this was going to be happening for you?
I was definitely nervous. I knew that the project was going to be something special. I mean, just seeing James Baldwin and Barry Jenkins. But then once given the opportunity, I was very aware of what this meant for, my career and, what I was trying to accomplish as an artist. At this point, people just tell me that, I'm really lucky and also really spoiled that this is my first experience, just based off of, telling a story like this, but then also working with the amazing people that I got to work with. I feel so blessed because you see in this movie all of these people, coming around my character Tish, but that's really how all of the people that I got to work with came around me, KiKi Layne. As I was experiencing all of these new things and having to learn a lot really, really fast, which coming into it definitely made me nervous. I didn't know if all of these veterans might get upset, something that, maybe we could have did in 2 takes to, 4, just because I wasn't aware of how it worked. But thankfully everyone was really supportive of me learning and, gaining all of this new knowledge, and continue to be supportive as I, every day there's something new I don't know, I got really lucky, like, and that's not just the cast, that's crew, production team, like, everyone, you know, took such good care of me and continues to do that.
Let me just say, my first film was a B horror movie called Bad Meat, and the tagline was, "It's the meat, it's bad." And so, fuck you.
But Dave, I do have to congratulate you on making those sandals work. That is a heroic effort. Let alone the cardigan. I mean, wow. Good work. Good work.
Appreciate that. Yeah, I had a lot to overcome being the guy who wears socks and sandals. So, yeah. It made me grow out that dirty little stash too. So, taking myself out of the deep hole.
I wanted to ask you though, Dave. I mean, you know, because I love your character. He comes in at a time in the film where this couple are going through real challenges, and he's kind of this ray of light in there as well. You know, did you base that character on people you've met, or you know, where did you pull that character from?
Yeah, I mean, the character is kind of defined by one line that he says. He says, "I'm just my mother's son." Sometimes that's all that makes the difference between us and them. And it's a really simple statement, but I think it says a lot. It's kind of implying that he had a loving mother who raised him the right way, and that kind of just allowed him to go out into the world with an open mind and empathy for others. And I just kind of, you know, let's be honest, I'm in the movie for 5 minutes. I'm sure most of you are wondering what the fuck Dave Franco's doing here. But, I love this movie, and I'm just trying to help support it as much as I can. And really, I mean, the truth is, my main criteria for choosing films these days is I want to work with filmmakers who I admire. I want to work on projects that are at least trying to do something new and bring something different to the screen. So I'd much rather be in one scene in a Barry Jenkins movie than be the lead in some movie that's really derivative.
Agreed on that. Stephan. Oh, Stephan. I'm so proud. Love this guy so much. So listen, there's some pretty good chemistry between you guys on that screen. I mean, wow. So that's not something you can just, you know, I know for a fact you can just cast that person and hope. So what happened? Did Barry get you guys together to see if it would work, or was it just alchemy? I noticed the lights came up on that. You guys really wanted to hear the answer to this. How did that all come together?
Honestly, I think it just came from, you know, a deep respect that KiKi and I had for the material that we had for Baldwin. Obviously that we had for Barry Jenkins, and I think we both sort of looked each other in the eyes at the beginning of this whole process and said, you know, that this entire story, this entire film was going to hinge on our relationship. And you know, if people weren't going to believe that, then the film wasn't going to work. So just a deep respect, you know, big credit to Barry Jenkins for creating an environment that was safe for us to play, for us to be nervous, for us to experiment, for us to fail. You know, I think it's a big testament to him that he gave us the, you know, the space and the time to find ourselves within these characters.
Yeah, it's really, really beautiful work, guys. Nicholas, I wanted to ask you this score, which, you know, it's the second time I've seen the film, and you know, it just so sits with the film. You know, where does the film begin, where does the score end, and vice versa. It's just so beautifully interwoven. You did Moonlight as well with Barry. You know, talk to us about that working relationship and the specificity of what you were able to bring to this.
Thank you very much. I mean, I think that one of the things that Barry and I do together is we work so closely together, and there's a feeling, I think, with film music where, it's very abstract music, like it's hard to know, for anyone, I think, what's going to work in the film. So I think we approach it really with this perspective of we're gonna go on a journey together, and we're gonna experiment, and we're gonna spend a lot of time together. And I remember right before we started working on Moonlight, it was the first time we worked together, and Barry said, what's the best way for this to work? Like, how should we approach this? And I said, you have to come to my studio, and we will just sit there, and we will try things, and we'll watch the picture, and we'll put things up against it and see how it feels. And in a way, I think that's something where we're very open to trying things, and also Barry is just unbelievably open to this experimentation where he follows his feelings, and we're really going moment to moment, trusting that kind of almost like physical sensation you get when something works. Because to your point about when the music really feels like it's in the film, I always think that when something works, it feels like it's almost like woven into the thread of the movie itself. And there's sometimes when you try a piece of music and it feels like it's almost sort of like sitting on top of the movie. So I think both of us are always going for this feeling where it almost feels like it's in the movie. And I don't exactly know what that is or how to sort of describe like what works, but I think we sort of feel it when it does. And Barry knows what he's looking for. I mean, I think we've all experienced that. He has this very, very strong sense of what he wants, and he's so and he trusts those feelings. And he has such a profoundly strong sense of that, and you trust that, and you go with him. And I've been so honored and inspired to work with it, because I think I've personally found things and created things with him that I never thought I might be able to.
I wanted to ask you, Jeremy, in relation to, films with black people in them, are shrouded in a lot of perception. You guys at Plan P make nuanced films, layered films with great filmmakers, with great artisans. But when you make a film like 12 Years a Slave, which you did, the perception is that's a slavery film. When we made Selma, that's a civil rights film. Now this film, it deals with black struggle to a certain extent, but when I come away from it, my overriding feeling is I've just seen an unapologetic romance. It's a beautiful love story, and makes no bones about it. It's just even the slowness of it at points, the allowing these two to look into each other's eyes in that way. I mean, I just want to hug my wife so hard every time I watch this movie, and that's what I leave with. But with black people being in it, with the fact that it has a period element to it, for you guys, are there specific and maybe sometimes unforeseen challenges that come when, I know how I feel when I see the film, but you're dealing with a certain perception? I'm just interested to know what you guys are navigating with this film.
Well, it's a great question. Barry Jenkins said recently in an interview that, there haven't been enough adaptations of the works of James Baldwin and African American authors, and that there's been progress in that direction, but that the sort of pantheon of films of like an established genre, the period love story, with two African American protagonists, that's just been way too scarce. And so I think that some of the maybe it's a little bit hard for the film to kind of, maybe the muscle memory for audiences isn't as strong as it ought to be, because there just isn't a tradition like, everybody knows Romeo and Juliet and a million examples, and Stephan talked about how he read Romeo and Juliet after reading If Beale Street Could Talk. But I think that maybe it's a little bit hard to kind of articulate, you know, what genre it belongs to. But then I think about James Baldwin himself, and you know, what was James Baldwin? You know, what genre did he belong to? You know, James Baldwin, and he was so radical and so such a unicorn figure, and so trying to define his own space. And I think that that's maybe what we love about this film, is that it doesn't, you know, it's all those things. In other words, it is an unapologetic love story, but as you become conscious of the depth and power of Tish Fani's love, played by these incredible artists that we're sitting here with, you also become conscious of the depth and power and hostility of the forces that would tear them apart. They're soulmates, they should be together. Why can't they be together? There's no good reason why they can't be together. But we all know the reasons why they can't be together. And so the love story exists in juxtaposition with those political, social, underlying conditions. And this film is both of those things, unapologetically so. Also, you know, Dave Franco's like, I've been in the movie for, you know, 5 minutes, but it's such a wonderful performance, and I think that scene is so crucial to the fabric of the film. I think that's a prime example of where, you know, everything collides. You know, in that scene, the depth of their love, a world full of possibilities, and also the sense that, you know, that Stephan's character, you know, believes that this you know, white character must be playing a trick on him, because that's how mangled and toxic our society is. That interaction, which is pure, you know, someone has to get past the belief that it must be rooted in trickery. You know, the depth of that interaction. So, props to you, props to all of you for that. But I don't know if I'm answering your question, but I think the idea is. Wow. Okay. Is that a capital suggestion I'm not answering?
Do that again.
I think you did answer the question. Talking of another wonderful, well, gosh, so many wonderful performances in this. I mean, Regina King, you guys. Oh my goodness. Wow. But another great performance I want to talk about is Brian Tyree Henry. And that scene between you three, that is so full of joy and laughter and pathos and pain and the unsaid as well as the said. I was just wondering how that day was, because I was at another screening and Barry talked about Brian coming in for a day. I mean, come on. Really? A day? All that great stuff? And then, I'm going to call him up. But how was that, you know, to cook up that much beauty in a day just seemed extraordinary to me. What was that experience like?
Yeah, I mean, you know, Brian Tyree Henry, I think we all know him as Paperboy, but really, he's like the biggest Baldwin fan on the planet. And, you know, he came to that set with just as much purpose and intention as anybody, you know, even in his day. And for me, that moment was so special because, you know, I feel like there hasn't been too many moments where we were able to see ourselves like that, where you could show this representation of black masculinity, like it could look like this as well. You know, two brothers being vulnerable with each other, sharing their deepest, darkest secrets, their deepest, darkest fears, and things that keep them up at night. Especially two young men who have been criminalized. I think that it's just you know, it's such an important moment for the film because it teaches young black men that we can look like this too, and we can sound like this, and we can feel like this, and this is okay, and it's okay to lean into our brothers and have these sort of discussions, and whatever perception of your manhood or what it means to be a black man or be masculine, whatever that idea was, you can throw it out the window, you know? It could totally look like this, and I think it's so important for the psyche, you know, the mental health and humanity of these young men, that they know that we can exist in a form like that as well.
And for you, KiKi, because one of the wonderful things about this film to me is that it is of a certain time, and yet, of course, like any great film, it speaks to this time. When Brian's character talks about, or you even say, yeah, let's go home and she's gonna cook. For me, in this day and age, you go, are we okay? Are we okay? Okay, we're okay. We're okay. But you do that so beautifully. It's of its own time, and yet it feels so modern. I mean, how was that for you as a woman living in 2018, going back and steeping yourself in that time, what was going on as a woman in that time, and finding the truth of that and how that truth can speak to now?
I mean, it was a few things. Part of it was just really just a lot of time spent with the novel. Even though Baldwin's a man, he did write the novel from Tish's perspective and had a lot of information in there about, how women were relating to men at that time. And so that was a big thing, that I paid attention to. Like, I made a conscious decision that at no point would you see Tish walking in front of Fonnie. He is going to lead the way. That was a conscious thing, and that is not how I, KiKi Layne, look your space. This girl moves, this girl walks, and you better keep up. So that was a conscious decision, things like that. And then, thankfully we had, this great team around us, from costumes and set design, which, allowed us to, we didn't grow up in the early 70s. So having these tangible things, to connect to help us develop this world, that we were imagining was extremely, important to that. But then, it does still have that feeling of, even though, it's based in the early 70s, it still feels so timeless because so much of what is happening, at that time that, the book is based, it's still happening today. Those same conversations, those same issues. And with this film, you have to acknowledge that and acknowledge, the pain that comes from that, of knowing that these same things are happening. So even though you're seeing these characters, who, they're based in the 1970s, but they are still real people that are experiencing these things today. There are real Tishes, real Fonnies right here and now. Stuff you can talk about it more, but a big part of Steph's research was Khalif Browder, which I'll let you segue into you talking about your preparation.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, KiKi. No, we, a big part of my research for playing Fonnie was a look into the story of a young man named Khalif Browder, who in 2010 was charged with a crime that he didn't commit, petty theft of a backpack. And he was sent away to Rikers Island for 3 years, 2.5 of which he spent in solitary confinement as a 16-year-old boy. And for me, this young man's story really broke me. It really broke me to have to look into his eyes and you would never see what exactly he was going through in prison, but to see it through his eyes and to hear him have to explain it was more than enough for me. And I think what really hit home to me was the fact that I had to come to terms with the fact that this was only one story. And there was a million Khalifs out there, a million Fonnies out there who would never, ever get a documentary made about them, ever get a film made about them. And that these were stories that we just don't get to see. Often these young men are reduced to statistics. 1 in 3 black men are going to be incarcerated by the time they're 40. And we don't really see them for their humanity. We don't really see that there are people who love people and have families who love them back, and may have babies that are about to come into the world. And so for me, it just meant a lot to give a voice to these young men who you know, fall victim to a system that is supposed to be put in place to protect you, but seemingly fails a certain group of people time and time again. And so it just meant a lot to me to be able to give a voice to Khalid through Fani and all these other young men, you know, to be a fly on the wall in those prison scenes, you know, to see what it's like for these young men to have to uphold strength in the face of their lovers, to be a fly on the wall in those lovemaking scenes, to see what real love looks like, real black love looks like, you know, between soulmates, you know, something that's deeper than lovers. To me, I think it really meant a lot that even though these characters are fictional characters, that we unmasked them in this way and we gave them a level of humanity to be able to connect with the audience.
Well, you guys did that beautifully. I'm being asked to wrap up now. Well done, you guys. Really, I mean, really. Well done. Thank you, everyone. One last question for you, Stephan. So, what are you benching these days? I mean, seriously. Oh yeah, I know.
We'll talk about it.
Thank you, you guys. Bless you. Good night.